here's a recipe for you. My logic, plugging in
Mm-hmm.
the idea of Hitler canceling the debts and whatever. So imagine that you had a Trump type personality come in, a populist president who was a bulldog, who wasn't beholden to anybody, a real red hair, orange hair man, shall we say,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who wasn't beholden to anybody, who also was a populist, who is also American first, and said, "Here's my plan. I'm going to use the might of the military, and we're going to be America first, and we're going to end these wars. We're going to go Jerusalem, Hamas, wherever you are. We're just going to bomb the hell out of both of you until you stop fighting. And same with you, Ukraine. We're gonna bomb Moscow. We're going to bomb Kiev at the same time until you stop fighting. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to list date to end the war, in the ceasefire. Whatever you have at that date for the land. Period. But then it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be the big dog, like separating two cats. So that takes care on the military side to be the big dog on the canvas and stop the fighting, the wars.
Mm-hmm.
Then secondly, we're going to cancel our debt like Adolf did.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel the debt, and we're not going to pay the central bank. Central bank, the banks, you're screwed. Sorry. And we're going to go
Mm-hmm.
back to some other kind of format for money, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the platform. And the third platform is, of course, America first, and this kind of thing about, let's take care of our own. Let's fix our real estate problem. Blah 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 blah. All those other kind of domestic issues, but and hardcore on the crime side, and hardcore against the lobbyists in Washington. So you get the populist feeling of that, but you take care of the economic burdens of the debt.
Mm-hmm.
And you shrink the military and say, we're going to just be drone and non-human jet fighters, boats, whatever, this kind of thing. And we're going to go into mass production of this stuff, of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to also mine our own lithium wherever it is on our soils. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I would do. And I think you could, if you had someone where the rest of the world was like, I don't know if he's going to push the button or not. I don't know if he is going to bomb Kiev and Moscow at the same time. This guy just might be crazy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
The only issue that I would have on there is because Russia is nuclear as well.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
do we think that we could effectively what's the word I'm thinking? Do we think that we can actually slow Putin's mindset into not going ahead and just doing exactly what he's threatened, just use nukes
Yeah.
and destroy us?
I do because, and that's the other thing. We would also tell Putin, we're okay. Ukraine will not be NATO. There will be no more. And we don't need to put Turkish forces in between Ukraine and Russia. We don't need to put US forces between the two. You guys are going to have your own fence line. And if you go back to doing these skirmishes or whatever, then we're just going to bomb St. Petersburg and we're going to bomb, I don't know, Odessa. And we're going to wipe those out. So here's the point. And so I think Putin would say, well, if you blow up my city, I'm going to blow up your city, and then we're going to have World War III. And I'm sure he would state that. But behind the scenes, he would probably say, yeah, I want peace. I want this end. I want the end too. And I don't want Ukraine to be part of NATO. And I don't want US forces or NATO forces, protecting their front line against us, because that's just the same as having NATO. Then you're just going to build up armaments against us. So the deterrent of either side fighting and continuing their fight is the big dog is going to separate the two cats from fighting and tear up both cats. I wonder if that kind of diplomacy could work.
That's what I'm wondering, because honestly, it sounds like the issue is NATO. So if we can encourage Russia to note that Ukraine will never join NATO. Thus, there's not this threat looming that if they join NATO, they're now a part of Article 5. So now we can automatically join in the fight. You take that away, and then Russia probably has no incentive to effectively Samson option
Right.
the whole world by going into World War III and launching attacks against UK and America and France. I mean, so you would have that de-incentivized notion that now we can actually work on peace behind the scenes while they're continuously just fighting it out in little skirmishes, but slowing down because they don't want their major cities nuked effectively, or just carbon bombed to nothing.
Right. So I think because it's bullshit that Putin really wants to take Finland and Poland and all this. That's all bullshit. Let's just plain and simple.
He really just wants Crimea. That's about it.
Yeah,
because that's Russia.
It's been theirs for over a century. You know, it's been their warm port. It's been their Hawaii, shall we say, or Philippines or Guam or whatever you want to call it, for us having a warm port in the Pacific. That's what it is for them. It's their warm port. So, that's another thing. People don't understand or know the history. Russians, for decades, or maybe 100 years, would go. That was their summer vacation. You go to Crimea and the beach, and every year they'd pile up in their cars and they'd go to the beach. Even when it was Ukraine, that's what you did. As a Russian, our summer vacation, and they have cottages and they have hotels along the beach line. It's like going to the Carolinas or Florida or whatever for vacation. And they've done that for 100 years. So, I don't know. That's kind of how I think. I think Putin would do it. I think behind the scenes, it would be, the world would say, "Oh yeah, we're going to be on the right side of things. We're just going to be the big dog, separating two cats from war. Anytime there's a skirmish around the world, we're stepping in. But we're staying out. We're going to stay out of everybody's business. NATO, you're on your own. Europe, we're done with you. Yeah,
being real mediators rather than the policemen. We're actually mediators. To work conflicts, keep things kind of quiet to a certain extent. Yeah, if you want to skirmish each other and destroy each other, go right ahead. But you know what? Just know that it better not spill over into the rest of the world.
And you know what
Otherwise,
I do?
You're done.
Right. I probably, what are those, they call them, I don't know, Thor's rods or something. I don't know what they call them, but there was that idea that you would take these titanium rods and you'd send them up to space into a satellite, and they would be ejected from the satellite and they would come through the atmosphere, and there is no nuclear warhead on it. All it is a titanium rod, but it's coming so fast and so powerful, 30, 40,000 miles an hour. And when it hits the ground, there's no radiation. It just obliviates everything. And we would say, we don't need bases all over the world. We're just going to have these rods up in space force. It's kind of how I would think would be. I don't know, just a thought. Something I've played in my head.
It's innovative in its own right, but at the same time, has human beings really evolved? Even though we've gotten technology, we've advanced so much, we've yet to psychologically and biologically evolve with the technology.
Our what's that? Our own Pentagon, our own neocons wouldn't allow that kind of thinking. No, we got to have endless wars. We got to have endless bomb making and endless tanks and endless aircraft and endless drones and endless, ammunition. The war machine needs to continue. So someone like that couldn't get elected. I don't think the president has that kind of power to stop it anyway. Trump and other presidents have hinted to that.
Well, I think that has to
here's a good one for you. Maybe jot this down. Glenn Beck, I used to be a big fan, not anymore. But
I used to too.
over the weekend, one of his he gave he did his experience when George W. Bush (GW) summoned him to the White House
Mm-hmm.
and cussed him out for what he had said on air. He did like a 12-minute talk about that. But at the end of the conversation, GW says it doesn't matter who sits in this office. Basically, the Pentagon tells you what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to listen to his story of when GW was upset with Glenn Beck saying what he was saying. I don't know if it was about Iraq or 9/11. I don't know.
I think it had, yeah, it sounds like it would have to probably have more to do with Iraq, but at the
But
same time, you
yeah,
have Afghanistan going on too, and I don't
yeah.
know.
You could fast forward it to probably, I think like it's a 9 or 11-minute video. You could probably fast forward it to the 8th-minute mark or 7th-minute mark and just listen to the end as he's describing the end of his conversation with GW in the Oval Office.
And that makes sense on why people believe the propaganda that there's a deep state. I mean, there isn't a deep state. It's just an intelligence apparatus within the Pentagon that is so immersed into a bureaucratic like idea that
Right.
yes, the intelligence agencies have too much power, but it's still the state. I mean, they're all working in line with each other. It's just the bureaucracy of the intelligence agencies and the DOD or Department of War now, whatever you want to call it, has more of the sway because that's like the largest of all the budgets that they get. I mean, the second largest budget in the United States is the Department of Defense. It's the defense budget.
Yeah.
The largest is still the entitlement scheme, but that's just to placate the populace and make them believe that the government's there to protect you.
Yeah.
But what happens when the government can't afford to protect you financially because they're too busy ciphering off all this money that's supposed to go to entitlements to defense because they've devalued the currency so much through inflation that they can't even afford their war machine imperial militarism that they have to just nix the entitlement apparatus anyway. So, and I think that's where a lot of people are starting to wake up.
I think so too.
Because they don't want to lose their Social Security.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
here's the next one on that whole vein, that kind of thing. If AI is what it's reported to be, what I'm starting to see, and having on our phone, I don't know, 30 PhD level, high level scientists in every, on our phone, basically at our fingertips, then we're going to very quickly figure out an inexpensive way to manufacture anything. And we're going to dramatically lower the cost of energy in different formats, maybe thermal, nuclear energy or whatever. I'm drawing a blank, but all the different ways of generating energy. And so the cost of energy and the cost of manufacturing, the cost of goods is going to come down so significantly that if we can have a piece of that pie, kind of like the Alaskan oil, fund, how the Alaskans have their they don't pay an income tax because they get a dividend check from the oil in Alaska. If that same thing can be tied into the advancement of the lowering cost of energy and manufacturing, etc., then we have an unbelievable future. The sad part is will those who are developing that technology under the current state and under how the current government is manipulated and held hostage to the wealthy oligarchs, if that can be pushed aside, and we all share in that abundance, uh, being the savings in the cost of energy and the savings in the
Hmm.
cost of goods and manufacturing, then we all could live a really much more happy and joyful life. It would be almost kind of like retirement for everybody at every age.
Star Trek.
And work would be voluntarily. We would want to work. Maybe,
Hmm.
like I said, like they gave the example on the other podcast was that, the haircut. Um,
Hmm.
no offense, Andrew. The haircut idea. Maybe you want to pay $200 for your barber to give you a haircut because you want that human experience. You don't want that
Hmm.
Yeah.
bowl to come over your head and the AI robotic, cut your hair in the
Hmm.
style that you want, and it's lifted up and it's done. Your hair's done, but there's no human
Yeah.
interaction. It's kind of like going to the bartender and asking for a drink and, well, how's your day going? Well, bartender, since you asked, and now it becomes a therapy session. It's a human
Hmm.
Yeah.
interaction. So that's where we could end up, where human interaction will be the option versus
Hmm.
robotic or automation, and and that would be the option. We would have the option to book, as say the barber, to book 2 or 3 appointments a week, because we still have all this other income that's coming in as a wealth
Hmm.
fund from the savings and cost of energy production, automation, etc.
It's like a market. It's a marketable private marketable UBI system,
Yes,
but yeah, without the
it's called a
state being
fund, a
involved.
wealth fund.
Yeah, yeah. And then on top of that, like it also sounds entirely similar to, like, take the money aspect out. Like the reason Earth in the Star Trek universe became prosperous and peaceable
Mhm.
is because of the replicator idea and the warp drive to be able to uh, figure out how to traverse outside of our orbit, but
Right.
and find resources and and all that and trade elsewhere. But you have the replicator that gave you the ability to have an abundance of things that you need or even want, and so we had what we needed in the Star Trek universe.
Right.
So, but it didn't take away, like, people being a bunch of drudges on society doing nothing because they have everything.
Hmm.
People actually wanted to work. Like, people like Jean-Luc Picard, like his family, they have this chateau in France where they run a where they
Vineyard.
grow, and
Vineyard.
yeah, they have a vineyard. They grow their own grapes and they make their own wine, and like people actually want to be like, there's something about being productive as a human, to be able to make something that people need or people want, and to be like, like, it's like envy. It's not greed. It's like it's having that right amount of envy of wanting to do something that's purposeful. But then when so if we can go and take that idea from Star Trek and take the post-labor economic idea of UBI from Andrew Yang and combine them with
Mhm.
this AI ingenious ability to meet in the middle, to where we can use the market to establish wealth funds for people, then people are going to want to actually find a purpose in human interaction and human productivity just
Mhm.
to do it. And then we're much
Exactly.
happier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And see, what happens is, and that when you hear about AI and abundance, is, whatever our GDP is, let's call it 15 trillion. You know, when you lower the cost of goods and lower the cost of energy, now we can have more things.
Hmm.
More things can be, like, replicated, shall we say, from a nanotechnology perspective or plug-in. And
Hmm.
now, who knows? Maybe our economy is doubles in size to 30 trillion from 15 trillion or 45 trillion, and that double or triple in the size, we all share that as a wealth fund, and that's where that abundance and that, shall we say, the retired lifestyle comes from. But what has to happen, though, is the basket effect, right? We have to tame the basilisk, but he says don't tame the basilisk. What you have to do is don't stare at it. Create parallel systems, alternative systems, the exit ramp, um, and to build without permission. And that's kind of where I believe we have to go. That's certainly is the agorist spirit of things. Um, and I still believe it's very probable, it's very possible that we could have a beautiful life of abundance. You know, in Star
Hmm.
Trek, those that were able to go in the stars and circumvent the the universe and leave the solar system were those that weren't chasing the dollar. They were chasing the the ability to work on
Hmm.
a starship, and the trade-off of being able to become an engineer or some other kind of scientist, or just the grunt who is working the controls on I don't know, the atmospheric controls with on the ship or something.
Hmm.
The grunt work, the ability, the payoff wasn't money. The payoff was being able to see other worlds, a supernova from up close, or whatever. And not everybody could, in that Star Trek world, could be on a starship and travel the universe. There were still those who are.
Hmm.
But in the example that I gave with the ball coming over for your haircut, maybe the haircut's only $1 versus
Yeah.
$200 for the human experience. Um,
Hmm.
it's not $10 at Supercuts or $15, $18 at Supercuts, whatever the cut is cost us.
Hmm.
It's $1 because it's robotic. Um,
Yeah.
and we all share in the wealth fund. So that robotic haircut machine can do 100 haircuts in a day or 200 haircuts in a day, and
Hmm.
we own maybe we own a small percentage of one, and it pays a dividend every day
Hmm.
towards the wealth fund or towards us. I think that's how it could play out. It could be beautiful, and
Yeah.
the technocrats could be pushed aside, as well as government bureaucrats could be pushed aside, as well as representative government could be pushed aside. Um, and we would all have much more of a free voice, like umbrella promise or other forms of governance. Certainly probable.
I mean, this comes from Ray Rum Nova Rum, but this is from Pope Leo the 13th. To go off of what you're saying, William. It's like it is clear that the main tenet of socialism, community of goods, must be utterly rejected, since it only injures those whom it would seem meant to benefit, is directly contrary to the natural rights of mankind, and would introduce confusion and disorder into the commonweal. The first and most fundamental principle, therefore, if one would undertake to alleviate the condition of the masses, must be the inviolability of private property. So to give people a piece of an ownership in something would effectively give people that even a small taste of private property, because
Right.
then you're all, I mean, it's distributism 101. It's like it's the concept of certain people have the means to attain for private ownership, but
Mm-hmm.
then and others are less fortunate, but it's an ethical aspect that we should help those that are in need, help support them so they can get a leg up, so they don't have to depend on society. And so why not have a system put in place where we all have a piece of the bread, so to speak, within the robotics industry or the AI.
Mm-hmm.
We have this fund that goes out. Everybody's an owner, and so some people are going to have more ownership than others, but the less fortunate are still going to have a piece to where they can live and thrive and be able to do their own thing and
Right.
actually be productive in their own way
Right.
somewhere
And
else
what?
in their
Yeah. And
needs.
you would hope. Well, like I said, it's like taking that Alaskan fund and replicating it, perfecting it along the way, and increasing it so that it's a piece that we all own a piece of the GDP, the gross domestic product. That's where it comes down to. We just went
Hmm.
live, didn't we? Oh wow.
Yeah,
Surprising. I didn't know.
I snuck in when we were talking about the German the history aspect. I'm like, this we need to record this. So I snuck it
Okay,
in for a little bit. So
no worries,
yes,
no worries.
because
But
this needs we need what we're talking about needs to go live.
but that's and then I see now. Now I never looked at it. Episode 33, innovation and evolution. Oh, okay. Um,
Oh,
but
that'll probably get changed just because
okay, well,
yeah.
but that's what I think. We do have an opportunity of abundance.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know what our chances of. Maybe it's only a 10% chance. Maybe it's a 60-80% chance. I don't know.
mm-hmm,
But we know that we have oligarchs and technocracy to push out of the way, and we have government that is retarding our advancements as well, based off of regulations and like Greg well describes in his book, um,
mm-hmm,
uh, Law Zero, that you've got this behemoth ugly monster that is a part of our lives that is trying to do the right thing for on our behalf to keep us safe or to regulate so that we all have the a better life and a free life. Well, I kind of think that the UBI idea or concept is still young and new. But if it comes coming from the government, then it's a problem.
mm-hmm.
What's that sound?
I'm
What
typing.
is
I'm
it?
sorry.
Oh, okay. Uh,
That is
uh,
loud.
if the UBI, if the UBI, if the UBI is based off of taxation and it goes into the government and then it's kicked back to the people, it's just another form of redistribution. And the concept of just tax the wealthy and just pay the UBI to those who are non-wealthy. Well, there aren't enough wealthy people. But what you need to do is you need to tax. If you're going to use the word tax and redistribution for UBI, which again I'm against. Don't
Mm-hmm,
get me wrong here. But if we're going to go down that route, then 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 we all should have ownership in growth,
mm-hmm,
and we should all have the buy-in as owners that we want to grow. We want to see
mm-hmm,
growth because that's going to increase our standard of living. That's going to give us a raise. Hey boss, I need a raise. I need a raise. I'm doing extra. I need to do this. I'm
mm-hmm,
willing to work on the weekends. And please, boss, look what I'm doing. Give me a raise. Well, the raise should be predicated upon the company's growth, or the raise should be predicated upon the growth of, like in Alaska, how much oil was pumped out, and what was the cost per oil per barrel is what determines how much the wealth money goes into the wealth fund that's paid to the Alaskan
mm-hmm,
citizens. So there you go. It's the same kind of concept. But rather than redistribution from a government through a government, it doesn't even have
mm-hmm,
to be that way. It could be no third parties. It could be like in the idea of blockchain and tokenization. It could be done this way. So there is no government entity that is touching it, or bank that is trying to take a piece of it, or censor who gets what for what reason, or social credit. Oh, well, you said this and that was negative towards the government, so we're going to deduct this much from your monthly
mm-hmm,
payment. Take out the third party, take out the middleman, and have that growth go straight into a tokenization process where every citizen then gets the token and
Yeah.
their fair share of the token. That's the technology that we have today. We can do that today. We have that. We've already innovated that.
mm-hmm,
We've already created a potential to eliminate, and this goes for makes people go back crazy. The idea that government should coin and print money. That should be a
mm-hmm,
government function. Well, quite honestly, okay, back in the day that was good, but now we've innovated a better solution, a better method, a way to
mm-hmm,
do it without any prejudice, without any censorship, so that everyone could get an equal share, and that's more just. shall we say? Anyway, you were going to say something, Andrew? I've been
No, I was,
before
I
you
was just saying,
disappear
yeah, I said,
again.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to leave like this, but I gotta go to bed. So
no worries, no worries.
No.
Yeah, it's late for you.
yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah.
well, you guys
Thanks,
enjoy your
Andrew.
time, and I'll see you later. Okay.
All right, take care.
Will do,
Bye.
Andrew.
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
All right. See ya.
Mhm.
All right.
No,
Well,
that
last
is
week.
fascinating. Because I mean, the blockchain is exactly what you can use. Because it's always there. Everything, all the information's on chain. You can see what is being transacted, who has, I mean, not who has what, but what,
Mhm.
but whose address has what, I guess. I
Right.
mean, and nobody can really they can't really like undercut anybody because it's there like
Yes.
publicly in the public domain. So
Yes.
Mm.
And I don't know, social economically, who knows? Maybe when we're all receiving a payment based off of the country's growth, economic growth and health, then who knows? Maybe there'll be less incentive for us to steal from one another. There'll be less
Mhm.
incentive for us to maybe we'll honor everybody's property. You know,
Mhm.
I won't break into your home and steal your tokens. Well, I can't because they're on the blockchain. We know who those
Yeah.
tokens belong to. Think of it for those who don't understand. Maybe think of the maybe your social security number being on a blockchain and the
Mhm.
dividend payment that's coming from the wealth fund, which is maybe we're just picking on the U.S. here, the U.S. GDP wealth fund. We'll call it that.
Mhm.
That that weekly or monthly payment or quarterly or annual payment based on how much growth happened, and the dividend would come directly to that social security number, which would be on the blockchain. And it would be, who
Mhm.
knows, it would be tied to your computer, your phone, or whatever. You could access it. You could,
Mhm.
it's just like a bank account. You would then move it into a different spending account and spend from that. So it's always protected.
Mhm.
And there's no question of well, gee, Zach, I show you got 500 tokens, and you say no, they were stolen from me. Well, on the blockchain you could be able to go back and see, oh well, whatever, Maria over here, she took them from you for whatever
Mhm.
reason. And so there could be a policeman, um,
Mhm.
there could be litigation, a court, a process that would go through the transaction and be able to see it.
Yeah.
That why did Maria get those tokens and not you? These
Mhm.
all these kinds of things that we already have worked out from a banking standpoint as bank accounts. Well, it could still work the same way. I haven't really given a lot of thought, or so I'm kind of talking off top of my head, kind of shooting from the hip on the process, just because I
Mhm.
understand and know how blockchain works, and plugging it into a situation where we're now all earning off of the growth of our healthy economy. And when we have a
Mhm.
bad time with our economy, well, we all take a pay cut, and we have
Mhm.
to come together and come with decisions on how do we increase it. There goes
Mhm.
another point. So yeah, a 6 month old is going to get a token payment into that Social Security, but they can't access it until they're age 18 or whatever. It belongs to them.
Mhm.
So and maybe
Like
only a certain percentage could be taken out at 18, so they don't go blow it at age 18.
Yeah.
Haven't figured out financial,
Like the Goober Baby mutual funds that they have now, except for it's a little bit more contained because it's attached to the blockchain, and then you can set limits. Like the parents can set limits. I mean, let's keep it like local on that aspect to where like once they turn 18, they have a limited access to their blockchain to not be able to the blockchain to not be able to like waste all their tokens all at once. and and then they're forced to actually have to learn, and hopefully they're doing this when as they're coming to age anyways, they're being taught, but they can actually gain the experience necessary reflected upon the blockchain into the real world of actually learning how to save and budget and this and that. And then that in itself causes a healthy economy, because you're reflecting what's going on both digitally and economically onto society, and everybody's able to create a community out of
Mhm.
whatever society's supposed to be.
Right. And we always talk about how in public schools they don't teach personal finance. Well, this would become the norm.
No.
Personal
Mhm.
finance would you would have to pass maybe certain classes before you could. I don't know. I'm just
Mhm.
shooting from the hip here before, so you didn't blow your whole savings that you earned from the time you're born to your 18th birthday, as an example,
Mhm.
something to that effect. But uh, there's so many opportunities here that we need to start thinking in that manner, and uh, of of us all benefiting from the growth of the economy through this AI and automation, and that becoming the plug-in to the solution of AI and automation is taking our jobs. We're losing our jobs, and this
Mhm.
points to the thing that I've been talking about on other podcasts about post-labor economics. We will no
Mhm.
longer trade our time and our labor for wages.
Mhm.
Instead, we will have our income, if you want to call it a UBI or whatever, will be based
Or
upon
pass yeah.
our
Or
country's
passive.
growth. Yeah, passive income. And we would have that income, and we'd have the opportunity, if we wanted, to invest in robo taxis or robots that are going to mow lawns, and
Mhm.
maybe it'd be co-op ownerships in
Mhm.
various automations to increase our income levels. Plus, it could be based upon, you know, our knowledge and
Yeah.
things that you could test out on, such as, who knows, I gave this example before, but imagine someone who, wow, I really want to learn more about physics, and they're
Mhm.
taking physics classes online. And as they
Mhm.
pass different levels or sections of it, they're earning credits or tokens that's going to go into their bank account because they've
Mhm.
tested out on that level of knowledge of physics. Well, another individual has no clue or doesn't even want to learn about physics, but they enjoy sports. Well, maybe they're going to go
Mhm.
in and learn about sports trivia. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's educating the brain. It's growing the mind. It's growing. Maybe some
Mhm.
person would call it trivia information, but it's another person where they find joy in sports
Mhm.
trivia, and they're going to do the same thing as the person that's learning physics is learning. Historical. Information about games and sports trivia and players
Mhm.
and what their accomplishments were, and they're going to take tests, and they're going to receive tokens or credits for that.
Mhm.
And when you're meeting in groups and you're having different conversations, oh, well, what have you been studying? Oh, I've been studying studies. Oh, what have you been studying? I've been studying sports trivia. By the way, did you know who Jim Thorpe was? Never heard of him. Well, what did he do?
Mm.
Blah 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 blah. you know it's one of the reasons why they tried, when they send you to college, they want you well rounded, and you're taking the basics, the 101
Mhm.
classes, right, your freshman year, and this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you're a well rounded individual. You can have conversations with just about anybody. It's almost the same boat. We could earn more monthly based on the classes that we've passed. And
Mhm.
life now becomes a life learning um, function and
Yeah.
a pursuit. And you can change at any point. Wow, I want to start learning about sports trivia. Another person says, well, I want to kind of learn about biology. I always found that fascinating, even though maybe
Mhm.
all the biology has been figured out by AI at this
Mm.
point.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. It's the human spirit that has that need for learning and a thirst that can be
Or ma Yeah.
quenched, and then a token can be paid for, based off of testing or validation of the knowledge.
Mhm.
um
And
it's
then
like,
and then for
what do they call it,
those
CEUs,
Yeah,
um,
CEOs, continued
education
education
units,
units, I
yeah,
guess.
so you stay, relevant in whatever your field of study is, and stay up
Mhm.
to date with current technology. It's certainly applicable to those who are lawyers and those in the medical field.
Mhm. Well, I mean, and on top of that, like it not only would that bring enjoyment into life because
Mhm.
you continuously being active and learning, just like what life's all about, but I mean, that's just taking the practicality of using this system for those that are going to embrace their mind. What about the people that want to embrace more experience hands-on uh customs like say plumbing or being a barber or whatever, they can still do all of that. Like they could learn like, oh, I want to learn how to cut hair and be a barber and give somebody a secondary option if they want that
Right,
human interaction. Yes, they're going to pay a premium, but and I'm going to make a little bit extra in my tokenization, which is a benefit for me, but they're going to gain the experience in the human aspect, and they're not just getting a haircut, they're paying for having a conversation and having a therapy, essentially a
yeah,
therapy appointment. Or maybe you become a bartender, maybe you become a plumber, and you gain access to business for people that are outside of the system that we live in, that
mhm,
are living more of at this point an off the grid. They have the old plumbing system or the old electrical, and you learn how to like mess around. Like if you're an electrician, you learn how to work on electrical workings that are within a solar parameter
right,
or what have you. So, I mean, who knows? Like, you can still have, maybe you're a builder. So, like, you
right,
can still have that aspect to extend and keep yourself busy and learning
right,
and have the flexibility to do other things. You don't have to focus on one just to pay bills. Like,
right,
I'm stuck in this 9 to 5 scenario because I have a house payment, I have 4 kids at home, and we're barely surviving paycheck to paycheck. So I stuck in my thing and I have to take a part-time job. Instead,
uh,
you're making money off of this wealth fund in on the block attached to the blockchain, tokenizing your assets through
mhm,
the apparatus of today, of the day with the AI tech and the robotics, while also earning from learning.
exactly,
So
exactly, and
yeah.
and that's that it it's I can envision it as being a much brighter future. Imagine, we
Hmm.
always talk about, oh, I'm working to get my retirement. You know, I'm keep saving a little bit of money and keep putting a little money in the 401k, or my company matches my
Hmm.
401k with 5% extra, or I don't know, whatever. And people we we work until now our bodies are over and done with, and now we retire. And you're
Yeah,
not there
pretty
to
much.
enjoy it, where along the way we could think of it as an innovative future of abundance, where we're almost essentially all retired because we're
Hmm.
being paid based off of the income or the growth of your country. Well,
Hmm.
but you can take those tokens and, like I said, invest it in anything, anywhere. It's up to you. It's your money. It's you earned it. Um, but I think if we start thinking in those terms of the idea that we're all retired, and like when it comes to creativity and music, that
Hmm.
we're still going to want to go see the live band. We're going to still want to
Yeah.
go see the live concert, and
Mhm.
it's a big show, the laser lights or pyrotechnics or whatever it is. And
We're
we're not
so
going to
yeah.
we're not going to plug into a bunch of AI robots playing. We might
No.
that might be the opening act, but
Some
the real
people,
act is going
yeah.
to be the actual musicians, and we're going to
Mhm.
like listening to the imperfections rather than the
Mhm.
perfect AI. Um,
Yeah.
and the band that's playing is getting the enjoyment of playing before an audience live, and
Mhm.
or we're being able to watch it live on our phone or TV or computer,
Mhm.
what screen, whatever, tablet,
or
whatever.
our eyes with the interface of Elon Musk brain
Yeah,
chips.
yeah. Who knows? Who knows? But I still think that we're still going to have that human element, and we're going to have artists that are going to be pure human artists, maybe on a canvas, a painting, and they're going to have the AI artist that's going to
Mhm,
use AI and human and the fusion between the two, and we're going to
mhm,
still see creative masters, new masterpieces being created in front of us, and
mhm,
we won't have to stay in one city or one state. We'll be able to travel because you know what, you talk to your family and say, how about that vacation? Maybe we should take that vacation to
mhm,
Bora Bora or wherever, you know.
mhm,
And you'll be able to invest in other countries because one thing about the blockchain is it allows for borderless transactions. So
yeah,
if you see that your country is starting to fall or falter in its growth rate, but you see maybe another country who is catching on to a new trend, a new, way of producing energy or something like that, you might be able to invest a little bit of your tokens over there and get a bigger return. And what's beautiful too is you're not looking to the human stockbroker who's giving you the stock tip. It's actually
mhm,
AI that's an agent looking over the entire globe at different
mhm,
companies, at different countries, or counties or cities that have something different to offer that might have a better growth rate, and you might be able to jump on there early and spread your wealth that way. And so
hmm,
it becomes gamified, um,
mhm,
and where you still have your base. You still have your base taken care of, your food, your housing, your healthcare, you know, what, um, you know, your base of entertainment or something. But above that
mhm,
is the cake and icing and the dessert. And that's what I envision. And so when you start having that, maybe the young 20-year-old wants to become a rapper or musician
mhm,
or something like that, and they go into that field for a while of study, and we all have this abundance that we're not worried about taking abundance from someone else, because again, it's on the blockchain. It could be reported, that the theft. And
mhm.
I think it's possible. I don't
I
know if
think
it's
so.
probable, but it's possible.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and as far as like the entertainment aspect of the young kid that wants to get into entertainment, like you have that with YouTube, but yeah, or all those, but it's all algorithmic based. But put in the blockchain and AI and have this ability for them to have the time to better their composure and their experience and their expertise, and you can actually draw a fan base without algorithms, and
Mhm.
the better that, and then you're also learning that the better that you work at it, the more fans you're going to get anyways, rather than be slaves to an algorithm to where
Yeah.
it's all about likes.
It gets to a point too where you're talking to your AI assistant so much that your AI assistant knows you so well,
Yeah.
and you'll tell your AI assistant, "Hey, um, what new music is trending?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's deep house or something like this, or
Mhm.
whatever." Okay, well, I haven't really listened to much of that. Play me a sample, you know, and and
Mhm.
and so and your AI assistant, comes back and says, "Well, did you like it or did you not like it?" I give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, well, and it knows that. So next time around,
Mhm.
you got a free moment, you want to listen to some more music or whatever. Hey, play some more deep house or whatever. You
Mhm.
know, this is the kind of concept. So your AI is going to know real well and know what you want to invest in and what you don't want to invest in. Maybe you have um, certain personal philosophies, ideology. You maybe you're a vegan or a non-vegan, or
Mhm.
what you want to invest in, and so your AI agent's going out there, you know, searching based off of your philosophical or religious or beliefs or whatever, um, what what investments match what you believe in. So you're voting with your wallet per se, with your tokens into businesses or counties or wealth funds, I like to call them, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that match who you are, what you believe in, and versus the days of the old of calling up your stockbroker. Well, not everyone had a stockbroker. Not everyone could call a stockbroker because they weren't qualified to own a stockbroker. Well, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
micro investing as well. $1, $5, $10, whatever. You know, and getting a micro investment. Maybe it's a half of penny, an eighth of a penny per week, but it's over thousands and thousands of various investments that add up to significant portions of income of dividends that are residual and weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. And counties, one county might have water where another county doesn't, and the water create a dam, and dam creates electricity, and that becomes a county investment, and everyone that lives in that county, it's just like living
Gets a
in Alaska.
stipend.
It's the
Yeah.
wealth fund of that dam that resides in that county for those citizens.
And then you get to look at your non-custodial wallet and just see the bank account go up. And you may have and because it's the blockchain, you may have a certain amount of tokens in that wallet, but the value fluctuates between the success and the growth of that area. So when it's successful, you see the token go up in value and you have more, and you didn't lose, or you didn't have to gain that actual asset. You just watch it go up, and on a bad time, it's gonna fluctuate and decrease. You know what I mean? So
imagine too, like your family, you're with your family, and you go, I don't know, to the beach, and you're walking on a boardwalk, and there's an ice cream shop, and you all go in there and you have some ice cream, and you're paying it with your tokens, and you go, wow, I really like this place, and I like their unique flavors, and you'll be able to pull up on your AI, and maybe it's all robotics that are serving you the ice cream, who knows, but you're pulling it up on you with your AI, and you see maybe its income statement and its balance sheet and the opportunity to invest in that ice cream shop, and you see that its revenues peak, of course, in the summer months, and then they kind of go flat, and during the winter months when it's cold and there's less people on the beach,
yeah.
but it's going to pay a bigger dividend maybe in the wintertime than it does in the summertime, or whatever. And you say, you know what, I like this ice cream. I'm not going to just give them a tip rather than a tip because I like this ice cream and I want them to succeed. I want this business to succeed. So I come back here because we come every year. I want the same ice cream, these unique flavors, but I'm going to give them a tip. But rather than a tip, maybe it's a $10 or $20 investment in this ice cream and that flavor, maybe that specific flavor. So every time if someone comes in and buys that flavor, it's almost like a royalty payment because you've invested in that intellectual property of that particular flavor of that ice cream. And so the sky's the limit when you start thinking of tokenization of anything and everything, and you're plugging in AI, and AI's giving you, well, I give you, this tokenized ice cream's got a high risk of 80% failure rate, because it doesn't have enough foot traffic or whatever. But the reward return could be great. So you can right there get a recommendation because, again, your AI assistant knows what your risk tolerance level is, what you might or might not invest in. And it might kick back and say, this is probably doesn't match with your risk tolerance. Would you still want to do this or not? Yes or no? It's these kinds of things that the sky's the limit. And it's how that small investment would help further that business. And now you have an ownership on a boardwalk in wherever, Bora Bora or something, even though you don't even live in that country. But you don't have all these government regulations and jurisdictions. Well, only residents of Bora Bora can invest here. You silly Americans, you can't invest in this country's opportunities or whatever. So, you strip government out of the way and the SEC and all that bullshit regulations, and AI is doing the evaluations for you if it's a scam or not.
Yeah.
And I think the future's bright when you think of it in those terms.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe this guy here on the internet is crazy. That'll never happen. Well, I'm telling you, it's closer than you think. It's sooner than you think.
It is closer. I mean, we're already kind of seeing it now. Just how social media and businesses on the internet the last 20 years interact because of the internet. Why not apply that with the technologies that are emerging with AI and blockchain?
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
I don't want to end on a down note, but we do know what the potentiality, the risks are as well. Is that these handful of individuals who are programming, controlling, gatekeeping the AI can lead us down to a form of manipulation and groupthink, and obtain vast amounts of wealth. Wealth that we can't even dream of. We could see a handful of trillionaires that are controlling more and more governments and manipulating governments on their behalf. Legislature, own basically Congress, and we could fall into a technocracy and a really ugly dystopian world where we are slaves to the AI and automation, and we're just hoping they'll throw you a scrap with a UBI payment that's bigger. And if you speak up against them, well, then your UBI payment is stopped or suspended for a week or a month or indefinitely, because you spoke ill of the technocracy, that took over. That is a real possibility, maybe even a higher probability than the green fields and blue sky, white fluffy cloud example I was talking about earlier. We could have a very dark future with technocracy and oligarchs controlling everything and restricting how much we have. And who knows, they could get to the point where it's ugly and you have to prove your worth to earn your UBI. Are you contributing to society in beyond what you're taking from? Are you a burden on society or not? And so if you're a burden, well, then you need to be pushed over here into this camp. Who knows where it could go?
That's the danger, because like when I hit record, that's what we were talking about, was the Nazis, and we were on a different subject of the Nazis in World War II. But I mean, effectively, the technocracy aspect could lead into: are you productive enough to gain the scraps? If not, then it's time to liquidate you. Like, you end up becoming the asset of the data that the technocrats own, the technocratic oligarchs own through this AI expanded apparatus. And so when you have no worth in their eyes, then that's when you're going to be the one that's liquidated, and we can do without you. So within your utopian perspective, which is real world, that could innovate and evolve if we did it the right way in a market scheme, post-labor economics in comparison to technocratic UBI is a better scenario.
Right. The last thing you want is, you don't want to rely on the government for your monthly payment. No. You don't want that power to be in the hands of just a few that can be even you could even report to these oligarch technocrats. You just don't want to subject yourself to that tyranny or potential tyranny, if you will. So I think that's that's kind of when the US was founded. It was 13 original colonies. They were nation states, and they were experiments, so that if Pennsylvania was doing well and New York wasn't, you could pick up and move from New York to Pennsylvania, and it was an
Yep.
experiment, and you could vote with your feet. It was a little more difficult in the times because of farming, and this is, we were
Yeah.
much more of an agrarian culture. We had to be, but it kind of is the same thing. In other words, what I'm saying is that, I don't know, in the U.S., I can't remember, is it like 3,500 counties roughly,
Mhm.
townships, whatever you want to call them, counties, and each one of them have a different thing of they have to offer, or each one of
Yeah.
them could be an experiment. Each one of them could be a wealth fund. Each
Mhm.
state could be another wealth fund.
Yeah.
Florida is got Disney World and Cape Canaveral and Miami
Mhm.
and this kind of thing. It's got a lot of tourism, and
Yeah.
that could be part of its growth. And
Mhm.
if you live in Florida, you earn from the tourists that come to Florida is part of your,
Mhm.
that's part of your wealth fund, versus
Yeah.
Alaska's oil and Texas's oil, or Texas's ability to manufacture plastics from oil, and
Yeah.
it's in refinery, base, all kinds of things.
Or
So,
yeah. Or to
you
go
know,
on a really small level, like Columbus in Ohio. Columbus in itself benefits through the wealth fund of their chip manufacturing that they're trying to put in place. And once that hits the ground running, everybody within central Ohio gets to benefit from that wealth fund of the GDP of the chip manufacturing that comes
yeah,
into the area, and then so on and so forth. And then the rest of Ohio might focus more on manufacturing because you still have some manufacturing base there. And then you could have the agrarian aspect and the tourism aspect, especially like in Amish country. You could token the Amish could actually, they're somewhat Luddites, but they're not against technology in some retrospect. Like
mhm,
they will use it if it has a benefit to the community, and they could tokenize by bringing it on a tourist aspect for their business for people that want to experience the Amish life, and then
right,
that goes back into their community to help benefit their family. So if you have an Amish family that gets into some trouble, that's it. This is how their community fund works already. Family
right,
gets into trouble, then the community has a fund that they've already put forth that they can go and spend for that family. Like they have a healthcare fund that everybody pays into so they can help out. So
exactly.
and
And
they already have that set up. We just can just utilize the blockchain.
well said. Good point. And another example too, like I was talking about earlier, about maybe you have different philosophical reasons or religious reasons not to invest or have ownership in or receive dividends from something like,
Mm-hmm.
say, a whiskey, like say Jim Beam, where it's
Mm-hmm.
manufactured, or that state, and your tokens would come in except for the tokens that were earned from that, from alcohol, or maybe a pork farm in the Carolinas or something like that. If
Mm-hmm.
you were, let's say a Muslim and you didn't want anything to do with, pork or alcohol. Um, so uh, again, this is how you're investing your own tokens coming in for your residual income based upon what you believe in and don't believe in. And
Mm-hmm.
and it and the also, you have to keep in mind that the SEC says, well, only qualified investors that have over $100,000 in assets, can can play in the stock market or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that can be stripped away when you shrink it down to a smaller level of various wealth funds. And if we start thinking in that way, we're minimizing the role that government has in our income streams or residual income streams. We're minimizing our role, and it can be policed by, your AI essentially becomes like consumer reports on your investment, and your investment portfolio. and everyone's going to have investment portfolio, and financial investment portfolio is something that's taught in our schools or your AI tutor or whatever to your children. So you're constantly moving your money around to growth funds, or maybe you have your AI is doing that for you.
Yeah.
And all your eggs aren't held in one basket, and you're diversified, and so you have a diversified income streams. It's all possible. It's all possible in what is already out there and been created today. This isn't pie in the sky. This is innovation that exists today, and it's, I hope, is our evolution on how we start working in our personal finance. And so we don't have to have UBI, or UBI could be just a safety net, with the bare bones, the bare bone basics is where the UBI comes into play. And then it becomes generational, because every child that's born is given a wealth fund that's going to grow in interest, and until they're 18, and then it's being drawn down, weekly, monthly, whatever, as a payment, for the rest of their life. And then when they die, then that balance of that UBI pool or money goes to the next, it goes back into the pool that's, for the next child that's born. So if I'm not explaining it correctly, but hopefully you get the point I'm trying to make, is that it's a pool.
And it's stringent on you diversifying and investing in your family's legacy yourself. It's not just one straight, narrow, linear, like centralized authority giving you bits and pieces, and when you're dead, you're dead. Everybody gets a piece of the pie if they survive that long within a government, within like Social Security. I mean, or on a welfare system, like within the centralized structures of the entitlement state, people are forced into having to sustain within the welfare system, rather than having the ability to get themselves out. Like it's just a safety net, and it's up to you to invest in order to make it more than just a safety net.
Yeah, it's kind of a good title on the show. Well, of course, we opened up to something completely different, but it's, ending wage slavery is what I'm trying to describe here. What we're talking about is we no longer have to trade our time and our labor for wages. That goes away, but the key factor and the key point here, there's two points. One, we're talking about tokenization of the GDP. And second, we're talking about the ownership change of the GDP, so that we're all paid off of that growth. We're not paid off, and right now, the people who own Apple stock are going to say, oh, no, you can't have that. You got to buy Apple stock if you want it. And the SEC's in charge, in the way. And so we're certainly talking about, points B, C, D, E, and F, and we haven't gotten through how do we get from point A to point B as far as the ownership change of the general property that's generating the growth of income, or the growth of the GDP. So that is where there's going to be a lot of pushback. Is this going to be a land grab for all of society, or is it going to be a takeover of the Apple stock, shall we say, or a certain percentage will be taxed of the Apple as it's growing, will be taxed and put into a wealth fund for everyone else? I don't know. These are the things that we have to talk about. We have to think about principles and doing the right thing and respecting property and ownership. But if we can figure out between step A to step B in the process of tokenization and distributing the ownership in such a way, without government and SEC getting in the way, and without the theft of the ownership that people have, and I'm just picking Apple as an example, that company, but that's what I guess it comes down to. Oh,
Solidarity. It all comes back to solidarity, really. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've been on.
yeah,
We've
could go on
actually
for
been.
quite a while.
Yeah, we've been talking like since like 11 my time, 10 your time. It's all yeah.
I know.
And
Yeah.
before we started recording, so
Right.
so I don't want to take too much of your Wednesday away, William. So
No, no problem.
this,
No problem. I appreciate
this
it. Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for having me on, Zach and Andrew. I hope
Hey,
he's fast asleep now.
yeah,
But
probably
it was a
probably
good
not.
conversation.
Hmm.
I don't know where you started the record and what we were talking about then. Like you said something about World War II or something, but this is what I guess the last thing I'd say is I was certainly black pilled and still until I started thinking of what AI and automation could do for abundance in a post-labor economic system is when I started seeing I became more white pilled about our our humanity's future. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime. Who knows? I hope so. But it does give me hope for the future generations if we can weed out the corruption in the state and the oligarchs and prevent a technocratic takeover into tyranny. It's potential. Gives me a white pill.
It does actually, because AI is a tool, and we got to use it as a tool. We can't just let it consume us. Really,
That's right.
We start, we start letting it. If we let it, if we think it's more than just a tool, that's when we let the technology control us and we become enslaved to ourselves effectively. But if we use it to our benefit, then we can actually save society and get back to where we should be, which is productivity and purpose and enjoyment of life while we our short duration on this life. We shouldn't be working as wage slaves for nothing. We should be improvising to better our life on this earth and leaving something that benefits the next generation.
Yeah, because I'm not describing.
I'm
certainly not describing communism at all.
No,
and I'm not describing any kind of
stewardship,
giant government overreach and a theft of property between A to B, steps A to B. I'm talking still free market, and I'm an agorism, and I don't believe in the state. I think it's gotten too corrupt and too big and too evil. So I want to eliminate as much of that out of this solution as possible. But so we have opportunities. I'm telling you, this is option. Beginning of brainstorming it.
That's all we have to do is brainstorm. Hopefully people take that brainstorm and go off with it and like actually make it more than just an experiment, or more than just a hypothesis. Actually experiment on that hypothesis, and from there we can actually benefit for each other and build a legacy and create something for the future generations that are more stewards of this earth rather than takers. So I don't know. So cool. I'm just retarded, everybody. That's what's so dangerous. So
all right,
but
well, Zach, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and everyone watching or who's going to watch this in the future. Stirring it up, just throwing out ideas out there.
That's why, speaking of an idea, as soon as we're done here, I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is just gonna go out there. So like, subscribe, share it. Yeah, probably will be on my new channel that I actually have now. I'm starting to do like a gospel reading ministry, so I might throw this out because this kind of has the same semblance. So I don't know.
All right.
So
cool. Well, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on. So thank you, and we missed Greg, but I guess we're gonna do it on Friday. Friday morning. So
looking forward to it.
So here's the Irish goodbye.